Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another amazing episode of InDesign Kitchen. Sean Kersel, hello. How are you doing? For some reason, the chat window has vanished out of my. There you go. It had hidden from me. Oliver, hello. Good to see you. Yes. Yes. Doris, hello. Also, let me just do a bit of housekeeping here and get us across into the right product would always be a bonus. There we are. General Kenobi, hello. Clever, hello. Good to see you all here. Fantastic. Now, do we give it a couple of minutes? Do we give David Cousins a chance to join? He's so good at joining. Sets himself little alarms for Tuesday. And I shall also wave at you, General Kenobi. There you go. Fantastic. Caroline, hello. You forgot about this, so thanks for the Behance notification helping my brain fog. Oh, I've got the brain fog. I've been rendering stuff all day that we thought was rendered, needed re-rendering because I forgot to put certain masks in. Such a pain. And then it needs testing, which is fun. But there you go. That's another story for another day. I came that close to actually saying no InDesign stream today, but I thought I can't do that after just a week of starting off again. By the way, I'm just having a quick brush my moustache because I can see it in big. Up there. So, Pedro, hello. Not seen you in here before. Welcome. And if I have and I've forgotten, then I apologise in advance. Excellent. Let's find out why the chat thing is not working in. Yeah, that's very odd. We'll turn that onto YouTube so we just see if we get anybody on YouTube. And this thing I can hide over there. Fantastic. Right. I know that Sean, I think, and Oliver definitely, and possibly Doris, caught the Adobe Live on Monday, where I was putting together the dust jacket that you can see just down there, over there, that dust jacket, that there, on Adobe Live. And issues with Restream chat? Yes, Sean. We only switched to Restream about 4 weeks ago, and we're having fun. Anyway, back to the main gig. Right, so yeah, I did this for Adobe Live, put this together for Adobe Live, then spoke to Emma afterwards because there were some things that didn't work as they should have done. And there were some things I didn't get a chance to do because of the things that didn't work, so I ran out of time, despite rehearsing it. Yes. So I thought that what I would do, he says, twirling his moustache into a nice curl, I'd cover some of those in here today so we can have a look at them. And I think we're coming up for 5 minutes, so that would be a good chance for me to start. We'll be around about the hour mark today. I think we might be slightly less, we might be slightly more, but next week we've plugged it in for a 90-minute stream because that's what you were asking for, and I'm very glad that you asked for it, so it'll give us a bit longer to play InDesign stuff. Good. Right, so I'm going to switch across into big from here. Oh man, I went straight to that. I didn't show the InDesign intro. Let me just do that a second. There you go. Now you've seen it. Yes, clever. 90 minutes. More, Tony. I don't know how you're managing to stomach it. I really don't. But nor my wife. She's like, what? What? They want to do what? Spend more time with me? Oh, God. And I don't. It's good that you're spending time with them because that way you're not in here annoying me. That's not true. I'm making up that scenario. Jane, hey up. I think, Jane, you were there on Monday as well when I was doing this one. So I said I was going to go big, didn't I? For some reason, there we are. Super good. So this was the thing that was going together on Monday. Evie, hello. Hello, hello. Okay, so you may remember, now I think I've got the right file open, so apologies if this doesn't work. I didn't have a chance to test it because I literally finished working on client work 5 minutes ago. Well, 5 minutes before the stream started. So I had to quickly unpack the files and get them ready. But excuses, excuses. Let's crack on. So you may remember that part of what I was doing here, this was put together. Let me just show you, just in case you missed it. Okay, so this was stitched together from 5 pages. In fact, it's such an important thing that I'm going to quickly do that again. Yeah, so I'm just going to go ahead here and create 5 pages because that's what we'll want for a dust jacket. The numbering is not relevant. Facing pages is not relevant, really. The page size, I'm actually going to dial that in. So I'm working in millimeters here. Okay, so the width of this is with a UK standard hardback. Here is 6.5 by 9.5 inches. That would be a very, very thin book if it was 6.5 millimeters, very small. Super pocket size. In fact, that's coin pocket size. Beyond that. But anyway, right, so 6.5 by 9.5 inches. You can see I've entered those values in there, and it's converted them to millimeters for me. At the margins on this, I basically dialed them down to 5 to start off with, all the way around. Just there, it's kind of the minimum margin I would like, and 3 millimeters bleed, standard for sheet fed in the UK. If you want to know what I mean by sheet fed, then perhaps we can cover that in a, maybe we should go and do an episode from a printers. There's nice big printers down the road. Maybe if I asked them nicely, we could do an episode in there. And if you've never seen some print units and you've never seen inside a printers, that might be fun. It's very noisy, but it might be fun. Sheet fed versus web. Yes, clever. Exactly that. So web, because there's slightly more movement potentially in a web offset, then the amount of bleed can go up. Yeah, so that's, and I think when I used to do catalogue work, because that was all done on web, it's confusing now that we have the web that we work in, right? But web is the massive, like 12-ton rolls of paper. However, I don't know how much they actually weigh. And I worked on a sheet fed machine when I was a printer. So, but they're huge, huge, huge printers. You see them in the movies, printing newspapers. That's a web offset. 12.7 millimeters we used to use for that. Jane is confused. Surely a dust jacket is all one page, so why 5 separate? Well, I'm going to actually do this one, and I'll talk you through that, Jane, as we go, and hopefully that will demystify it for you, so you'll have an idea of what's going on just there. And Clever's saying, oh, I guess that's a bit confusing now since web feed is not like website yet. That's the thing. If you're talking to people who don't know anything about print, you know, the mechanics of print, and you're saying, right, is it for sheet fed or web? You then have to explain that stuff. I'm very, very tempted to, at some point, maybe next week, pop down to the printers down there and just say, do you know what? Can I bring in a camera or two, and we'll have a wander around and stream it, see what they say. They'll probably say no, because it's very dangerous. But there you go. But right, so this is kind of repeating this. I haven't muted my phone, so let me just get that done. That's not a great thing. Okay, so I'm going to do this bit again. So if you saw the stream on Monday, apologies, you'll see this bit again, but a recap isn't a bad idea. So I've got 5 pages there. Okay, like so. Now I'm going to go and open up my pages panel and make it big so that you can see it. And then I'm going to zoom out and you can see all of their individual pages just there with their own little pasteboard. Yeah, that's a thing in InDesign. So we'll go back to that. So we're going to stitch these 5 pages together. Okay, so what we're going to do is we are going to go up to the flyout, okay, in the pages panel. So that's the top right hand corner. We are going to come down to this option allow document pages to shuffle. Now that kind of suggests to you perhaps that, oh right, that means I can pull them around. When you turn it off, it actually does. So it means that you can pull them around if they are meant to be stitched together, and then they will stay together. But I'm just going to do allow document pages to shuffle, like so. Okay, and that's good, clever that you're liking that. By the way, I'll go and talk to the printers. It'll be fine. I can't talk at the one I used to work at because that was like 38 years ago or whenever. Longer than that, 40 years ago, 41 years ago, no, 40 years ago. They've kind of gone. Anyway, so I've allowed those to shuffle. What I'm then going to do is I'm going to drag these pages up. Now just watch the panel carefully. Okay, this very soon we'll be able to do the zooming and you'll be able to see it in there clearly. But you can see there's a small sort of bracket popped up to the side. That's then joining those two pages together. I'm going to bring up the next one, okay, and then the next one until I have all 5 joined together to make one big long spread. Now because there are a number of pages, Command 0 just fits the current page to that, so Control 0 of course on Windows, so you need to use Option Command 0 to fit the spread. Every day I'm shuffling, yes. I wonder if that'll get me a copyright strike. No. Okay, now I don't want all of these pages to be the same size, right? That would be a mega fold out. But what we need to do now is get the Pages tool to make some modifications. So Shift P is how you access the Pages tool. Here it is, or the Page tool, right? It's the 3rd item down in the toolbox because it's like super important. And I'm then going to target the left-hand page here. So this will form one of the flaps. Okay, flaps typically around 3.5 to 4 inches. That's a kind of a typical measurement, if you like. Always discuss all of this stuff with the people that are putting the jacket together for and the people who are producing it, just to make sure, right? Because that's important information. So once I've got a page targeted with the Page tool, okay, the control strip at the top is largely blank. However, it has some information for me here. I've still got a reference point, so even a page has a reference point here. And what I'm going to do is I am going to change the width here. Remember, I'm working in millimeters, but thinking in inches. 3.5 IN in there. Whoops-a-daisy. I think I just jumped out of InDesign temporarily. Let's just go back to that. We'll try that one more time, this time with feeling. There we go. So, oh, that was that X location I was doing there, not the width. 3.5. Hello, Tony. How you doing? Not bad. Right, 3.5 IN, and that shrinks down. Okay, I'm going to go over to the right-hand flap. I'm also changing the reference point here to the left there. And this one is also going to be 3.5 IN. Boof, like so. So that's the flaps done. Then we're going to go to the middle. This is the part that forms the spine. Now the spine doesn't, well, in fact, sometimes the flaps don't get creased in the same way for folding because they're meant to kind of roll around the boards. They're meant to be a nice, pleasing edge. The spine can get like kiss crease, just a little bump into it, but it doesn't get a hard line put into it. But we're going to change this. Books are different, depends on the weight of paper being used. There's a whole calculation. There are online calculators you can get if you're publishing your own book. Talk to an expert before you just go and do it, because it's expensive. Costs you about 30 grand to do an initial run of a book. So, if you're doing it for volume for Amazon, then get some consultation. For this one, I'm going to go with a fairly straightforward 1-inch measurement here. I'm actually going to make the registration point center, and I know what that is in millimeters, 25.4. I'm going to hit that. Now this sometimes happens, right? That page has now gone, well, I don't want to play with those other pages anymore. So I have to go ahead and juggle them around a little bit. So if I get this page here, in fact, I'm going to pull that out and take it to the end. Then I'm going to bring it back into the middle. No, it's not having it. So I'll take this one over And I've had to do this before. I had to do this the other day. For some reason, they shouldn't detach, but they are in there. Let's have a quick catch up. Oh no, we're all good there in the chat. So I could try and move this over, I guess, or change the X location, but it should be just fine. It should, there we go. So both flaps are sitting together. So now I'm going to move this page in. I'm going to move the spine in, and then I'm going to move the other page in between the two. There we are. That should be it fixed. Yes, it is. When it happens, sometimes it doesn't happen at all, and I don't know why that is. Other times, like Monday and today, both of those occasions, it's happened. So Jane, it needs ripple delete. It does. Let me just zoom out a little bit. Right. So why use this method? Yeah. Rather than oops a daisy. I've still got the page tool active. Let's not do that. Why use this method rather than creating one sheet? Yeah. The whole length of it and using guides to do it. Well, you might have to use a lot more guides than are necessary. That's the live stream activated trolling feature. It is. You might need to make a lot more guides. It's not so easy to do things such as, right, on the spine or on the flaps, I might want to change the margins just on those pages. So if I went here to margins and columns and decided, because this is an edge that you might come into contact with, I might want to make sure that they're all disassociated there for the margins. I might want to say, right, on the left hand side, I want that to be slightly larger there. On the right hand side, I might want it to be larger still, because I actually want to move into that space with the jacket. So I might want to say, if I'm going for 8 just there, I might go up to 13 on that side. I'm just going to jump into the other document for a second, just to show you something, right? So typically, you don't finish at that page edge. You roll in a certain amount, okay, into the flap. So if you saw the flap in isolation, you would just see this, and that means it's going to cover the edge of the board. Okay, and anything that's covering the board, yeah, the board being the bits of the book that are made of board. Yeah, so you roll in by a certain amount. Here I've rolled in by 5mm, but if I want to use the margin, I might add that 5mm on. I could also, especially if I was working with someone else, I'm going to bring in a guide here. Now I'm going to select that guide. I want it to move to the left, which means it needs to be a negative thing to subtract from it. If I subtract by -5, then I've got a guide in place for that. So now you can see it's easy for me to visualize my margins and also where the overspill is going to occur. Yeah, for those things, that's what you want. Moving on to the so that's an important part of that. I'm not going to flesh this out as a whole document. And maybe I should have done. I should have gone for I should have tried to get Chloe to come in and do a 90-minute stream today, and then we could have done this thing all over again. So Jane, particularly because you asked, and I know a few other people are curious about this. Why? And I've gone to answer it a couple of times, but I'm going to answer it now. So why use this method? Yeah, aside from the margins, why do that? Occasionally, yeah, books get printed in different formats. Yeah. Different languages at which the character density is higher, yeah, than maybe English. Yeah, there are quite a few languages that will generate a larger volume of that. We also produce large print versions of books. Yeah, so you can get that for people who have some form of vision deficiency. Yeah, to do that. You might also find out that your calculation for the spine is incorrect. So by doing it this way, rather than having to move a whole load of guides around, all you need to do, if somebody came up to me and said, Tony, you've made up that wrong before I do the artwork, it's actually meant to be 1.5 inches, then I can come into here, change the page, and the other pages just move away from the side. Now let me know in the chat that makes sense, because I'm hoping it does, right, that you understand why this method is better, But if it doesn't, I'll have a look at another way. Oh, Jane, you understand now. Fantastic. That's good. So that's how it works. Can you make the spine 12% wider? Yes, I could. I could actually do that calculation inside of the width field, not the X location field, which is what I went to earlier. Yeah, it does. It gives you flexibility, and there are loads and loads of different things. First single cover I ever did, by the way, manually, not with a computer, was a gatefold challenge. So it's a single with a double gatefold sleeve. It was epic. And in fact, the most recent album cover I did was a gatefold also. There you go. Shocker. It's over there on the wall. But right, so that's how I made that up. I made it up with the 5 pages like so, because it was on Adobe Live and I've got like an hour. I didn't do the guides that I'd just done there, so I could then repeat that, of course, on the last page here. Let me just do that for you. If I go to margins and columns there, so this time it would be on the right hand side. I would want to increase that to 8, and on the left hand side I can enter +8 in there to get my 13. This time if I brought in another guide, let's bring it in from the top and hold down the Alt or Option key to change its direction. Yeah, so now I've got that. This time it would be +5 on there to give me the guide. So when the artwork came in, let's just place a bit in here. If I go to the background, let's bring that in. I'm going up to the bleed edge, just there, click and drag across. And I'm going to hold down Shift there just to change the size of the frame, because it's not in proportion with the actual graphic. And then if I just fill that out here, so where are we? We want to fill the frame proportionately. Oh, I just did fit the frame proportionally. I meant to fill the frame proportionally. Just there. There we go. So we've got that. You've got the little bit of overspill into there. There's another reason, by the way, that you might actually want to do this way, right? I'll show you that also. I've got a copy of the document that will work here, so bear with me a second. I'll just bring that up. So this is a copy of the file that you saw at the beginning. What do we do these days when we publish a book? We don't just publish it in print, right? And this is kind of weird, looking at a picture of me underneath a picture of me, by the way, on the edge of that jacket. I'll try and... There you are. Ebooks, exactly. Yeah, we produce stuff for ebooks, and typically a store still needs a cover. Now, if I did it in one long spread, one long page with the guides and all of that stuff, if I still thought I'm stubborn, I'm going to carry on and do that anyway, you would have to amend the artwork to do it. But this way, let's say I need a JPEG out of this for the bookstore. All I need to do is go to export, okay, and here I'm going to go ahead. In fact, if I drop this on my desktop just for a minute, okay, if I go into here and choose JPEG, okay, so let me just make sure that that's okay. So what I'm going to do is say range page 4. There, like so. Everything else is fine. I just want to export a page, then I want to export it quality, la la la, all of that good stuff. However that needs to be. Yeah, you get the directions from the store. You get a spec sheet from them anyway, but a spec sheet is a web page. But you can go there. Now, if I just pop back to my Finder here and go to the desktop, that means I've got that copy ready to go, because I could just export a page rather than to do a subset of a page. Does that make sense? So any and all of those pages could be output completely separately from there, and that's what I get. I'm really hoping that that's kind of fixed that for you. And now you know. And like Audible, where often they also have a spine chain. Yeah, there's also that. You can have that. Yeah, so you could do exactly the same thing there. Output that. Perfect. There you go. And Gareth's in the chat. Hola. Oh, habla español. Ahora. Right. Okay, so that's that. I'll keep this open just in case I need it. So back to the mystery of exporting this as a PDF. Let's give that a go with this document. This might work because of a fix. So I don't know if I made it in this document or another one, but anyway. So Command E to export, and I'm going to drop this out onto the desktop, and I'll give it a dust jacket, and I just have to mark it with a code so it doesn't get archived, so it gets thrown away. There we go, and this is going to be a PDF print like so. Now for this, because I've got RGB content inside of here as well as CMYK content, then I need to use PDFX, which is where PDFX allows the Adobe PDF print engine to actually do a higher fidelity job of translating RGB colors into CMYK colors. It's a very cool piece of kit, which it was free, so most printers all over the world have it. So there you go. Now there are certain rules around PDFX. This has to be compatible here for this to actually work with 1.6. So PDF 7 1.6. You can always know your PDF numbers because they add up to the number. So if it's PDF 7, yeah, 1.7, 1.6. If it's PDF 5, 1.4. See, there you go. And you can see all of those things there. There you go. They add up. Handy piece of knowledge for you in relating to PDF. Various different standards here. This says PDF 2004 2008 modified. And I still want to know what the Cheese Rolling Society's dark secret is, says Oliver. We'll talk about that in a second. Right, so I want it to output all of the pages just here. I want it to output as spreads. That bit's important. Okay, so I want it to output a spread. I want to view it after exporting. Well, actually, we can just do that in the Finder, so that's fine. I'll turn that off just for there. I don't need any of that stuff. I've got a summary here. It's going to tell me a couple of things that are the compatibility's reset to 1.6. Well, I know because I did that manually anyway, to be compliant with PDF X 2010. PDF's so much fun. Right. So I'm going to hit export. Now this should be a background task. It is. You can see this thing whirring away at the top here. This is what, and there we go. Exactly the same as when we were live. And it stumped me at the time because I thought that should be working. But then after the stream had closed out, I remembered something. And for that something, we're going to need to pop into Illustrator so I can show you. And so here we are in Illustrator. I am going to open up that file. Okay, so here it is. Here's the background. This is as it was created. I'm going to wind it down and show you exactly how that was made. So first of all, I need to select it. Always a win. Just there. And by separating these things out, by the way, by separating the background out from the main cover graphic, they were meant to go together, but I separated them out because that way I've got more flexibility and I make the cover longer than most of the time. I didn't this time, but most of the time longer than it is ever likely to need to be, because it's much easier to just trim that down by changing the frame in InDesign than it is to go ahead and add more content to it. So there you go. That's workflow tip for you. So I've got that selected. I'm going to go to the appearance panel here in Illustrator. Okay, and I'm just going to turn a couple of things off just there. Right, so this is how this file began. It's a gradient, just a straightforward gradient. If I click this on and show you the gradient, there it is. That's all the gradient stops in there. Okay, to make this gradient, and it's going down the page minus 90 degrees to get me the colors that I actually wanted in there. Then on top of that, I've added 3 different textures. So I've added, I think the first one is a board texture actually. I know it's a paper for the first one. okay, with various opacities. So it's in the soft light blending mode. Okay, it's at 37.1% opacity. Then on top of that, I added another one. This is an aluminium coil texture. I'm just going to switch myself over to the right hand side so you can see those more clearly. An aluminium coil texture. All of these from Astute Graphics, by the way. And if you get Texturino and you're an Astute Graphics customer, you can go to their website and download all of these textures. This is set to knockout. That means it's going to push through certain parts of the texture, so it won't be complete. Just there again, this is scaled down. Also the opacity 13.6%, very low opacity. It's just having a nice soft effect. It's almost like adding a salt wash to it. If you've ever seen that in watercolor painting, where you get a sprinkling of salt, or adding salty water to it and then painting, you get this sort of texture, and then dabbing it away quickly before it reticulates to do that. And then I'll add in another texture just there, and let's see what this one was. This one was combed dark sand, right, which really builds out that texture and gave me exactly what I wanted there. Again, this one is blended using the soft light blend mode, okay, and the opacity down there at 14.3%. So making all of the textures appear as images, and in fact, if they're tiled, they appear as a lot of images in there. And so what was happening was InDesign was sending this off to the PDF print engine inside the computer, and the PDF print engine was trying to unravel all of these things and render them, yeah. And then InDesign plays it safe and just thinks, do you know what, this isn't working, and just suddenly quits the task, says, yeah, I don't think this is going to work, and quits the task because it was too big with too much texture inside of it. So that was a challenge for it, and it didn't meet the challenge. So what I did is I rendered out a copy, or actually exported a copy directly from Illustrator. I just went to export as here, and I chose the PSD as the file type. So then I've got, you know, that all of that. Illustrator's fine with all of that because it's already rendered it on screen, so it knows how to render it, and it's built for that. And Astute Graphics build all their stuff with all these workflows in mind. So that's how that worked. Let's come out of that without saving it and go back to InDesign. So what I did was I got hold of the texture. I'm going to just open up the other file, the copy file I made, because I made one so I could destroy parts of it and see what was going on. And all I did here, if I go and unlock that layer for the background, and then go to the, let me select the content there. It's going to be tricky because of that name on top of it. There we go. I didn't quite get it. Okay. There we go. You can see it's a PSD just there, but if I go to the links panel, you can see 11 years background PSD. So let's go ahead and export that. So let's just drop this onto the there we go. So we'll do that this time. Same deal, PDF X4, all pages, spreads, la. Let's hit export. Background task starts running. Run, because it still has to unravel all of that stuff and return an image at the end of the day underneath there. So that's it. The background task is completed. So I'm going to go back into my desktop just here. There's the PDF. And there it is as a file. Now I did include the bleed there. I can see that clearly. Yeah. So there you go. That's a file that's ready to go. My printer or client or whoever can then take that away and then go ahead and use it. Any error, any bits in here that you can see that look a bit weird like that, that's just the operating system trying to render it as well. So there's a couple of bits there that aren't the best, but if you opened it up inside of Acrobat, then you'd see that stuff there. There we go. So I've opened it up, and I can go and inspect different parts of that as well if I want to. Right, so it wasn't exported with layers, but I can see things inside the content. There's no 3D models in there, but there you are. and I can examine everything I need in there to get to all the PDF boxes for that should I need to make any changes. And you can see also that the rendering there's no bit in the middle that you saw a moment ago there too. Yay! Anyway, hopefully that's unraveled those mysteries just there. Let's go back into this file. So this is the copy file that I made. So the other thing that I didn't get to show, and you can see this by the way on my Behance page. If you go there, you'll see that this project is on there. I'm going to try and start posting my projects after each live that I do. You have to do them for the US one now anyway, but for the UK, I'm going to try and do that so they all go on there. Yeah, with this one of the things I didn't get to show, okay, was this thing just here. So let's just go down to this text. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn off. Oh, actually, it's not on just there. That's interesting. That's because it's not selected, Tony. There we go. So let me just go ahead and turn that off for a second. So you'll see this in two places. Let's just zoom out a bit. If you look at the author name on the spine just there, okay, which is another thing I didn't get to do on the live, but basically I just flipped this round and changed the size of the type so it fitted within my 5mm margins just there on that particular page, giving myself extra room so there's more of a boundary before the curve even. Nice. There we are. And this here and the text there, as you can see, right, on this page, if you start reading the blurbs that come down here, by the time you get to the bottom, I'm just going to tap W so we get a screen rendering of it. By the time you get to the bottom here, that is very, very, very difficult to read. Yeah, really, really difficult to read. And so we need to fix that, because the last thing you want is content that vanishes into stuff. You see it a lot these days, which is really bad, because there are loads of things that help you to check for contrast, which is a really important part of accessibility at the sort of entry level of accessibility, really. And that's what it is. It's an accessibility problem. Not only that, it's bad design because there's no contrast there for it. Does that mean you can't use the light coloured text on something like this? No, it doesn't. It just means that you need to do something to mitigate it. Now, there are a few different ways you can approach this. You can do this using low opacity strokes. There's all sorts of other things you can do to work it. But the way I chose to do it here was to go to the transparency options, okay, for this object. And I went to outer glow, which does exactly what it says, okay, and I added a fairly low opacity, well, 75% actually, that's quite high thinking about it. Okay, at multiply, black in the multiply blend mode, and you can see there, so I've got that, a 2mm blur around there, no spread involved in that. If I did change the spread, I could make that nice, and you can see that could be nice and dark. I could bring that down still further if I wanted to, and model the opacity down. So if I wanted it to be clearly out on the side like that, then I could do exactly that. Yeah, but I think that is just a tad too much for that, so I don't have a spread at that value. Spread at 0, which means it's going to go out from there. A little bit of noise, 4 or 5% of noise, sometimes helps as well with an image, because it will just get in with the mosaic here. And then I just added 2mm around it like that, just to kind of bring that out from the background. And if we now go ahead, okay, and just go for a screen preview again, all right, so that should be about now. There we go. You can see how they're standing out. It's not quite in screen mode, so we'll try that again. There we go, and we'll zoom in just a little bit. But even down to this part here, where we've got Mimsy Pudding Cake, Wychester Evening Telegraphed, yeah, you can read it. It's not as clear as it could do with a little bit of improvement. There's I would perhaps play with that a little bit more, that particular bit. Another thing that I'm doing there that's kind of tricky is I'm using quite a thin typeface, yeah, almost reversing out its color. If it's lighter than the actual value, then technically it's kind of a reverse. So technically it's kind of a reverse. Technically it is a reverse, yeah, because it's lighter than the top, than the background. So thin weights like that, fairly small. I don't even remember what this particular size was. Yeah, 12 point on there. That would perhaps benefit from being a different typeface completely from there. And indeed, the serifs on here are quite chunky on the text. Let's just move this across here. Let me just see what preview mode I'm in. Just for a second. Let's go to normal. There we go. That's something else you need to check. If it's got long, thin parts from the serifs, then you need to check those out as well, just to make sure that they fit. So I did that in a couple of places, as you can see there, just to make them stand out from the side. And on the right hand side, from the original, I think I've still got that. Oh no, I've modified it here. So I didn't change the copy, but I created new things to the side here. So I created yet another paragraph style for the top, yeah, and then separated these out like so. And I'm sure you can have more fun reading all of my nonsense on the Behance post if you want to do that. Okay, so like I said, I mentioned this to Emma and just said, do you mind? I'm just going to take this into my own stream on Wednesday and just go over a few of these different things. The other thing I would have liked to have done but didn't do, so what I did here with this particular text, so I think if I go ahead and select just the 11 years just there, okay, there's no character style on that apart from the light character style there. If I switch that back to, if I change that to italics, it's got a whole different weight on it. That's another style I made. I chose no style, yeah, and just click away from that. You can see that's in black. So I created a character style that actually changed that entire line, okay, to light. Now sometimes that works, and you can always do a local override, yeah, to go ahead and change that by just changing it to italic there. That's fine, but it is an override to the actual style definition, and that means if you go ahead and change the style definition, that may change also. So what would you do in that particular instance? Well, what you would do is you would clear the override. If I go to the paragraph styles, Command Option 7, Control Option 7, I can see that there's an override there because of the plus just to the side of it. Okay, and if I go down to this button here, okay, and say remove or clear the overrides, that goes back to being regular text. So if I need to have it light and I need to have italics in there, then the character style is not the way for that to work. If you want to do the two things, then unfortunately you have to make another paragraph style. So if I go ahead and select this line here, in fact 1, 2, 3 is the quickest way for me to select that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to clear that character style, but I'm going to use Quick Apply to do it. So Quick Apply is invoked by holding down your System key, that's Command on a Mac, Control on Windows, and hitting Return. And the Quick Apply dialog appears. Now I use this in all of my streams. I apply it because I'm a big fan of it. It's a super time saver. And I did say on Monday during the stream that what you would do is you would basically start typing, yeah, the name of the style you were after. So let's say I wanted italics. That's the style I made for the flap there. You can see if I type IT, I get italics. I also get quite a few other things in there. So there is a way I can tell it ahead of time that what I'm looking for is a character style. If I type C and a colon, it automatically filters everything else away, because as you might have noticed there, you can issue system level commands as well and application level commands. It filters it down right immediately to character styles. Yeah, so it now shows me the character styles that are in here. And what I want to do is I want to choose none. Right, now you can just tap N and it will automatically filter that to none. And if I hit return, then there you go. That's now got no character style on it at all. Whoopie-doo. So I'm going to go ahead then and make a new paragraph style for this. So I'm in the paragraph styles here. I'm going to choose new paragraph style. And this is going to be based on blurb, which is just fine. I'm just going to call this blurb light. There. And the only change we're going to make here is go to the character color and choose the color that I want, which I think I was using this one. Just saying, even if I wasn't, it doesn't really matter. And so now I've got that as a paragraph style. I can then go ahead here and create a new character style for that. So if I go to my character styles, new character style, and I'm just going to call this light color for color. In fact, we'll call it light color italic in here. And then we'll go to the basic character formats, and in font style, type italic, or start typing in, it can complete. Oh, hang on. We've got some chat going on in YouTube. It's my absolute dream to design things like this. How did you get started? How can I get started? Oh man, I started a long time ago, Sierra. It's different these days. I have a BFA. I'm just going to read this stuff out. This is coming across from YouTube. And hi, by the way. I have a BFA in graphic design. I have some experience with design jobs, but I would love to design a book. What I would do these days, Sierra, is I would fill my Behance profile with, I would redo covers from different books. I did that loads and loads of times. In fact, I started with Silence of the Lambs actually a long time ago, and then I did the Wasp Factory from there. And then you find when people start, you had to lug your portfolio around, and it wasn't so much what you knew, it was who you knew at the time. But you can take those around and see it. These days a lot easier. Fill your Behance with covers for books that you've read. Yeah. I feel like I'm back in my COVID type class. I can't believe I missed this so much. Oh, well, anyway, this is good. You're here now. You can join in. But that's what I would do. Fill my Behance with covers. Let's have a quick catch up on the chat, because I've just noticed the word pedantic there. So I'm just going to scroll up a little bit to see there's lots of hellos. There we go. Right, okay. Hey, Biola, hi. Fantastic. Yes. Just being pedantic, Tony, but looking at the hardcover books on my shelf, the spine text goes down the page. Do you know there is actually a direction for that? You can do it. Mine's actually the wrong way around. It's a good spot there, Caroline. It's not pedantic. It's actually accurate. I did mine in the wrong direction there, but you know, it's for lefties. It is. Yes. Fantastic. Thank you, General Kenobi. Yeah. No, they are. It's not like I've got one or two behind me, is it? Yeah. So there we go. We'll correct that in a minute. And 50 bonus points for you. And Sarah over on YouTube, you are welcome. Come join us every Wednesday at 4 p.m. UK time. Okay, so back in the character style, right? Just here, I've started to type italic. Why have I started to type it when I could just click for the drop-down menu? Are you ready for this drop-down menu? Have you ever looked at it before? Are you ready? Let's go. So it's quite, but in fact, it's not even drawing on that screen because I'm across two screens. Let's see if I can get it to draw. There you go. So now that's actually, it thinks it's drawing up onto the next screen. It isn't. It's just disappearing because the screens aren't aligned in the way that the system thinks it is. But there's every potential variation, of font variations rather. Every potential for font variations inside this drop down. Yeah, some of which I've never used some of these things, but they do exist, so they're in the list just here. So I would suggest that you start typing what you want. If it's condensed, just start typing cond like so, and it starts coming up with condensed. You can then just use the down or and up arrows on your keyboard to cycle through those variations. Now here is also, so this is italic, like, so I'm completing nothing else in there because I don't want it to change anything else. Yeah, all I want it to do is change it to italic. Now, right, okay, I'm going to come to that in a minute, Biola. Good question. I'll get to that in just a second. Right, so let me just hit OK, and let me just go ahead and apply that character style here. So I'm just going to get rid of the N just there, and let's do C colon. It's going to show me those, and there's my italics. Oh, light color italic is what I want. Boom. Yeah, so now I've got those two things together. Question in the chat on Behance. Biola is saying, I did this yesterday and it didn't work for the particular font I was using. I wonder why. I know this is going to sound dumb, Biola, on my part, but I've got to ask the question. Did you make sure that the font you were using had an italic variant? Because if it doesn't have one, what you're going to get is highlighting. So I'm using Merriweather here. This is one of the first things I look for, apart from liking the glyph shapes. Yeah, that's always been the first thing I look for since since falling in love with type when I was about 14. It's the first thing I look for with the shapes. Yeah, and I like the glyph shapes in this. The second thing I look for from a production point of view, well, it depends how I'm going to use it, actually, thinking about it. If it's going to be a single line of something, or it's going to be a very, very limited case, yeah, that I'm using it in, then I might just use it. But here, yeah, in a production like this, where I'm going to need to use several different weights and perhaps different things such as bold, bold italic and other weights, yeah, to create a visual hierarchy with the text, yeah, because that's an important thing from design. Remember, hierarchy it shows you how important something is or where it sits in the schedule of things. This is something I look for. Yeah, so if the font you've got hasn't got it, so let's just say this has got light italic, regular, all of those things. Cool. Let's mess with it a bit then. I'm going to click inside where this paragraph style is, and I'm going to do style options, and then I'm going to choose something that is not in here. So let's have extra light. There we go, and hit OK. And this is what we get. So I'm just going to zoom in on that. Just take a moment to zoom in. So this is what you get when that happens, right? You get this highlighting like so, and it just means it's not there. There isn't a variant that uses that. So you need to make sure, if you're doing it with styles like that, and sometimes if you're using, your full recommended allowance of fonts, which would be 3, yeah, then sometimes you might need to make paragraph styles for all of them. That's why one of the things. Oh, you've got it. That's fantastic, right? So that's. Let me just go back into that style and just rectify that, just here. There we go. Cool. Because there is one there, it will show it. So that's why it doesn't work. One of the good things, I'm going to switch out to the typography workspace just here. So if I go to that, then we've got paragraph styles down here. When you are doing things that involve multiple fonts, like I say, try and stick to your recommended allocation of 3. There are, of course, exceptions to every rule. Right, but generally in something like this you wouldn't exceed 3. That may or may not, by the way, include the actual title. The title is thought of as a graphic in this particular way, so that doesn't count as a font. Also, I've just very quickly got to rectify the direction of that because it's doing my head in, and probably Caroline's as well, saying, well, he knows that, why hasn't he changed it? There you go. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. There we are. And I just need to nudge that a little bit to the left now. There we are. Super good. And extra points for doing that. Tim! Hello. Hello. Oh, man, it's good to see you here. For the last 5 minutes, admittedly, but there you are. And that's now rectified. So when you are doing that with multiple fonts, one of the great things inside of InDesign is this wee folder down here in the paragraph styles panel. You also have one in the character styles panel which helps you to organize your content inside of there to make it easier to find. If you've got 40 different paragraph styles in there, you don't want to be hunting and pecking for those, you know. And it's not so much while you're working on the document itself, because while you're working on that in the first instance, you probably already know what the name of the thing is, so you can use quick apply to get to it. Or, as you've seen, you could use quick apply to filter. P colon isn't the way to paragraph styles. Can't remember the correct way to do it for paragraph styles, actually. I thought it was P. Oh, anyway, not to worry. You do have a filtering menu right here. So there you go. It is P. Why is mine not kicking in? Right, so there we go. You can see those little commands, all the different things you can get to just there. So how you can search for things. It's probably because I'm not focused on anything that can accept it. That's why. If I go into this text and do it, right, and now do P colon, then it starts to show me paragraph styles. Wasn't thinking. Chatty, not thinking. Oh, Tim. Oh man, it's lovely to have you here. So it's when you come back to the file after a couple of weeks and you've done like a dozen other jobs in between, and then you get a phone call. I've got a job at the moment which has been waiting since the beginning of December for edits, for changes. I'm dreading it coming back because I can't remember how I built it. I'll waste half a day of my own time, yeah, unpicking what I did. So there you go. What are you doing there, Oliver and Sean? Let's have a quick look. Queen Bee. All right, it's Fabiola. Fantastic. Okay, so that's handy. But this is a really good organizational tool to have things in. You don't have to name it for what it is. You don't have to say, like, you know, cover types, or you could. So these ones here only relate to the flap. If I create a folder for them, right, and call them flap text, there, like so, and then I just pick those up, drop them into, oops-a-daisy, I double clicked on that one, pick them up and drop them into that folder, into there, or at least that's the theory. There you go, in we go, and now they're there. So that's easy. Jane in the chat, I've been caught out with that so many times on my scrapbook page trying to remember what I did. It's very difficult. Logbooks. Logbooks are the way to go for things like that. Diagrams of how you built things. But there you are. Okay, that is pretty much it for today. So those mysteries are now solved for you. We've also dug into a couple of other things that were a bit nicer to dig into with just a little bit of extra time. So that's good. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you've got any last minute questions, now's the time to fire them in. I think Sierra was just going to pop something in on YouTube, but I can't see anything come in there right at the minute. So next week, given that when I asked the question yesterday about making InDesign Kitchen a 90-minute stream, people want it to be a 90-minute stream. So from next week, it will be a 90-minute stream. Excellent. Thank you, Caroline. You are welcome, and Clever, and Doris, and Oliver, and Sean, and Biola. Yay! That's it. Right, we're done for today. I will see you, if not before, then on next Tuesday for Draw This, or Draw in Illustrator. It's not Draw This in Illustrator, it's Draw in Illustrator. There we go. But until then, take good care. See you. Bye.